classroom that was filled with high frequency notes of laughter, excitement, jaunty feelings of the kids was suddenly hushed as Mrs. Thompson, the 7th grade class teacher, stepped in and said, "Good morning, children, love you all." Deep within she knew she did not feel the same way for Teddy as she felt for the class. Teddy was a shy and quiet child. He was rather untidy and unkempt. No matter how hard Mrs. Thompson tried to deal with Teddy, he refused to change. His petite stature with sunken eyes made him all the more inconspicuous. She picked him for every negative example and ignored him for all positive ones. This week, Mrs. Thompson had written the first quarter progress report of the class and had sent it to the headmistress to be countersigned. The headmistress called upon Mrs. Thompson and said, "A progress report should mark some progress. The parents should feel my child has a future. The way you have written the progress report for Teddy, parents will give up on him." To this, Mrs. Thompson promptly replied, "There is nothing positive about this child and I can do nothing about it." Out of concern, the headmistress asked the administrative staff to pull out Teddy's previous year's report cards. The 3rd grade report card read, "Teddy is the brightest child in the class." Mrs. Thompson was stunned. The 4th grade report and progressively all the remarks suggested that Teddy's mother was suffering from terminal cancer. Hence, she could not give him enough attention and it was showing in his progress. The 5th grade report read, "Teddy has lost his mother and along with her, himself. This child needs immediate attention or we shall lose this child." By then, there were tears in the eyes of Mrs. Thompson. She felt guilty and desperate. Next day, from the dais of the class, Mrs. Thompson said, "Good morning, children, love you all." Deep within, she knew she was lying. The love she felt for Teddy was far, far greater than what she felt for the class. She had decided to change her approach. She picked him for all positive reasons and there was never a negative reference to anything. The last day of the term came and every child brought a gift for the class teacher. There was a particular gift which grabbed Mrs. Thompson's attention. It was wrapped in an old newspaper. From her instincts, she knew that it was from Teddy. She opened it up first. Within the folds of the newspaper were a half-used perfume bottle and a bracelet from which few stones had already fallen. The whole class started laughing, knowing that it was from Teddy. Mrs. Thompson did not utter a word. She sprayed the perfume on herself and wore the bracelet. With a quarter smile, Teddy said, "Now you smell like my mom." And this was the last thing they removed from her body when they took her away. Every year at the end of the term, Mrs. Thompson would receive a letter which read, "I have seen few more teachers in life, but you are still the best. Love, Teddy." Years rolled by and they lost contact. Somewhere an agent traced Mrs. Thompson and handed over a letter from Dr. Theodore. Teddy had gone a long way and done his PhD. The letter read, "I have seen few more people in life, but you are still the best. I'm planning to get married and I cannot imagine myself getting married without your presence. Love, Teddy." Mrs. Thompson could not resist herself. She no longer had the perfume, but she had retained the bracelet. She wore the bracelet and went to the church. She was trying to sit at the last row when Theodore personally approached her and led her right in the front to a seat marked Mother. At the end of the ceremony, Theodore introduced Mrs. Thompson to his newly wedded wife and said, "Without her, I would not have been what I am today." To this, Mrs. Thompson replied with tears in her eyes, "Without Teddy, I would have never realized that a teacher should first be a mother to every student and then a teacher. Life is a classroom. Not only do we learn a lot of lessons, there are times when we play the role of a teacher in somebody's life. I request you that as you leave this room today, please realize there is a Teddy waiting for you to be his Mrs. Thompson, his turning point in life. Do not be judgmental, be compassionate. A listening ear, a smile, a caring heart have the potential to turn a life around. Together, we can change the world.